Why do I feel like I did nothing? Like none of it matters.
Little Hope was released in 2020 as the second installment of the Dark Pictures anthology. It follows the same formula as its predecessor by having the player control several characters and guide them to survival or to their doom. Little Hope shows a lot of promise within the first 3/4 of the game, and that's in large part due to its setting. It bounces between modern times in the foggy little town of Little Hope and the late 1600s with witch trials inspired by the infamous events out of Salem. Putting together the mystery and navigating a way through it was better than anything in Man of Medan, but ultimately it feels like a step backward as the branching narrative is rendered completely pointless by the end. Like my previous Supermassive videos, the kill count can vary depending on my choices, so I'll count the kills in my own playthrough and highlight each place characters can die that may not be present in my run. So let's steer this intro to its end and enter the town of Little Hope, an apt name for what's in store.
So much death.
The game begins with a bus driver leaving a roadside diner after sunset. He hits a roadblock and is informed by the officer that all traffic is being routed through Little Hope due to a major accident up the road. He says he just wants to get the people in the back to their destination, and the cop takes a quick peek and says they won't mind the slight detour. He pulls away, and it's here the silence is broken by voices coming from the back, but the bus driver needs complete silence and tells them to shut it right as a little girl elects to close this road down too by jumping in front of the bus and forcing the driver to swerve and tip over. We witness one wreck right after another as both James and Ann Clark argue about his drinking habits and familial neglect. He blames their shitty kids on adoption while he embraces his real love from the fridge. We're introduced to brothers Anthony and Dennis who complain about their sister's tardiness as their dad's fartiness forces their younger sister Megan out of the room. Anthony lets Tanya in and briefly waves to her boyfriend while Dennis puts his sick vinyl collection in the attic. Megan tries to get his attention, but he shoos her away and nearly falls off the ladder. Just starving for some kind of attention, Megan jump scares her Marger as she prepares for a bath and is promptly kicked out, giving her a real funny idea with the key in hand. It cuts back to the elder kids as Anthony asks Tanya to check on Megan since people be picking on her. He clearly can't do it because he has to get some tea going. While he waits on that, he's given some tough love from Daddy-O.
The devil himself would struggle with you guys.
Damn, okay, not that bad. He hears Tanya yelling outside and learns Megan locked her out on the balcony because the creepy shadow hand told her to. He looks inside to see a fire has started in the kitchen after Megan placed her doll too close to it and it fell, but the door locked behind him too and he can't get inside. This scene plays out like speedrunning a Final Destination movie or something, with James asleep surrounded by fire, Anne stuck in the bathroom, Dennis trapped in the attic, Tanya locked out on the balcony, and Megan just relishing in it all. In under 2 minutes, we witness Anthony lose his family one by one, with James getting crushed by a crumbling ceiling for the first kill of the game. His mother Anne succumbs to smoke inhalation as it fills the bathroom and she's unable to escape. Afterwards, Anthony is forced to choose between saving Megan or saving Tanya, and you know damn well I let that little freak burn. He tells Tanya to try and climb down the drain pipe instead of risking going back into the house, but in doing so she slips and hangs herself in the process. If he directed her back into the house, she dies regardless by being burnt alive. Then to fully emancipate Anthony from his family, Death meets Dennis by sending him hurtling off the roof and onto the fence below for the most brutal of the first 5 kills. Anthony stands there flabbergasted and mortified at what just transpired, and glances at the matches in his hands. A neighbor notices and immediately places blame on him. The sudden blame sends Anthony running into the house to end the chapter there and send us to the curator. He reassures the player that there is nothing that we can do about the fire, but that moving forward our choices will matter. He makes a quick comment about how he's not allowed to interfere, but can only provide vague hints a few times each game. It sends us back to a funeral showing Tanya's boyfriend mourning her passing, then links us up with the bus commuters following their crash. We're introduced to Andrew, played by Will Poulter, whose only video game credit consists of this title. He was drawn to the project because of the branching narrative that you never see in film, so getting to play different scenarios based on player decision offered a unique challenge. Getting the chance to play multiple characters across various points in time was also a major benefit. It also granted the opportunity to do motion capture work that he has never had the chance to do. It made the entire experience a new one for him. He didn't do all the mocap work for his characters though, with Jack Archer responsible for a majority of that. It introduces us to the rest of the group with Taylor, John, Daniel, and Angela rounding out the group. Much like Man of Medan and Sean Ashmore, Will Poulter is the only actor who plays and lends his likeness to his character. The others are all played by one person, modeled after another, and motion captured by someone else. But those mocap actors genuinely seem to have a ton of fun with their parts.
Yeah, there's like a big 3-metre platform, and you get pushed off and fall on into a squishy mat, which makes me very happy.
It is the most fun I've had with my clothes on for years. It's great.
They all resemble a member of the family we just watched die, but this takes place in modern times during a late-night field trip with 4 students and 1 teacher, which is really fucking weird. Daniel and Angela need to find a way back up to the road, so the other 3 walk down the street a ways and read the town sign, which for some reason says it's illegible, even though it very clearly says little. As they explore, John reminds the students that Little Hope is steeped in bad history as it experiences its fair share of witch trials. They're able to link up as a group eventually, but Taylor wants to go back to the bus and wait for help, whereas John thinks going into town is the best way. Daniel and Taylor head back to the bus, but suddenly walk right back into the group. They quickly realize the fog is sending them back the way they came, so the only way forward is into town. Luckily, there's a bar nearby so they can question the lone patron Vince, but he's not much help.
There's no goddamn us.
John calls him an OB-ho and checks the phone, only to find it dead. They hear a bell toll in town, taking that as their cue to skedaddle. Up the road, Andrew spots a little girl in the bushes, and Angela is the only one that hangs back to confirm with him. That's not a little girl, dumbass. He finds a doll just a little ways up that really helps him get those wrist stretches in. But as soon as they are nice and loose, he's aggressively grabbed and sent back in time with Angela, another girl that resembles the one they just saw and also resembles Megan from the prologue. Introduces herself as Mary. Her playtime is soon interrupted by a hooded figure that accuses her of devilry. Then it bounces Andrew and Angela back into the foggy town of the present. The other 3 don't believe them, and John says they're just stressed.
Stress my ass.
Ew, no thanks. It leaves them there while we join the curator, who calls those mortals fools and suggests we try and find the bus driver. Angela comments on the girl's accent being from another time rather than another place as they continue onwards. They're being watched by more than just us. Oh shit, someone else too! They approach a bridge where the fog is thickest, and within it, they all see a little silhouette of a girl. Gotta move, will you step your ass forward? John does exactly that, and a few moments later, after the fog disperses a bit, he admits to seeing another version of Angela as if she was acting in a historical play. Taylor again expresses her doubts about going into town, so she and Daniel split off in hopes of finding a different way out of this situation. The other 3 go down the tunnel bridge, and John very briefly sees something else up ahead and loses his shit, hurtling over the side and jumping down below. His sudden urgency causes the other 2 to do the same as something mysterious silently judges them. Up the pathways, John again loses it and does his stupid little run away from this abandoned shack that contains the only things you need in America, baby. They come up to a police station and have this weird ass conversation about Andrew not being able to break a window. It's awkward as hell and seems so out of place.
You think a rookie could make a shot like that?
As they climb inside, we cut back to Taylor and Daniel, who get their chance to visit the past. Mara hides in a barrel and tells them to keep quiet, but she's found by a priest who mentions a secret she needs to keep to herself. She tells the priest someone named Amy is who he's looking for, and afterwards Daniel and Taylor are back in the present. Taylor boosts Daniel up a staircase so he can check out this grocery store where he's given a coupon to the past. He sees Angela's and John's counterparts, with Amy telling her husband Joseph she's being accused of witchcraft. The priest busts in, claiming Mary saw Amy speaking in tongues, and she swears it was because some hot soup burnt her tongue. He doesn't buy the excuse though, and escorts her out of the house, and Daniel's back in the store explaining what he just saw to Taylor. They exit the derelict building and find themselves right back where they started, but with some company. We rejoin Andrew and them as he's accused of some major crimes.
Got a big-time criminal past we don't know about?
Serial jaywalker?
He locates a phone, but when John tries it, he hears nothing on the other end, which aggroes the grumpy educator.
The cable is missing?
They search the building for a phone line, but in this place, proper connections aren't needed, and the phone rings when it's good and ready. Andrew picks up and listens to Amy plead her innocence on the other side, then gets a ticket to see it in person alongside the twins of Daniel and Taylor. The Reverend gives Mary a brief reminder of their secret while issuing a threat before Amy is taken to trial. When they exit the vision, they link up with Daniel and Taylor again, who are more keen to stick together now. They all agree stopping the witch trials may be their way out, but this rickety crumbling bridge needs to be crossed first. As they slowly cross, John gets pulled back in time to witness Amy's execution. She's bound in chains and weighed down so she can't swim and gets pushed into the river to mark the first death we see during Little Hope's witch trials. With that over, John tells Angela he just watched her doppelganger perish and that they should hurry up. He jumps down, and once all three have done so, they're accompanied by something from the water. Andrew climbs up, wanting nothing to do with that thing, and has to choose between Angela and John. Being a teacher's pet, he has John come up, but struggles to do so, leaving Angela down there all by herself. She's eventually pinned down by the demon that sprays black liquid into her mouth to suffocate her and add her to the count. This is the first instance in which any of the 5 main characters can die. But if Angela survives past this point, the same demon has the chance to kill her 3 more times, or she can die via gunshot by Andrew. She's dragged into the water, and they leave traumatized at the sudden turn of events while we get to talk to the curator. He immediately tells me that death was avoidable. He sends us back to the town, with John thanking Andrew for saving him instead of Angela.
You made the best call.
They find themselves in a graveyard with another observer. They pop out on the other side, they see another silhouette in the fog, but this time it's only Vince. They keep out of his way, and John reiterates that evil little girl Mara must be stopped. We check out what Daniel and Taylor are doing. Oh, we're time skipping, nice! They hide along Joseph as he spies on Mara after condemning his wife. She finds a creepy little poppet, which is swiftly taken from her by Taylor's counterpart because that thing looks hella witchy, and she doesn't want the young girl being accused of all that. Afterwards, we check in with Andrew and John, wondering where in God's name their bus driver went. But more importantly, the little girl is spotted running into the museum. Thankfully, no back and forths about breaking windows here as they enter the place and decide to burn the poppet inside, hoping the girl's spirit is tied to it and immolation will release it. Andrew don't give a fuck either, he just tosses that thing on the ground, probably hoping to burn this place down too. They exit the front of the museum as we watch Taylor and Daniel enter the museum a little bit later, but inside they get split up and Taylor claims to have seen her older self being accused of witchcraft too. Daniel finds a stabbing device and exits the museum the same way as we meet the curator, asking if things have become clearer for us. The only thing that's clear to us is how fucking annoying Taylor is, TBH. She freaks out about this tire swing that resembles the one she had in her yard at 10 years old, but thankfully she's interrupted as they get blasted to the past to witness her doppelganger Tabitha's execution. She attempts to plead her innocence just like Amy did, but Reverend Carver has to spill blood for God. Just like Tanya in the prologue, Tabitha is hanged for the second kill in these witch trials. Her death here can change depending on how Tanya dies at the start. If she burns in the house, she'll be burned at the stake instead, which is a pretty cool mechanic I wish we saw more of in this game. She's the only one whose death can change, but if they brought in that to each of Anthony's family members, it would have given us more variety that this game desperately needed. As soon as she's dead, we get to watch Taylor freak out some more, but Daniel calms her down.
Nothing bad's gonna happen to you. I'll make sure of that.
Don't write a check you can't cash, my guy, cause that's up to me. This adorable black kitty gives us a sign of what's to come as a demon gently floats their way. They clumsily escape and run right into Andrew and John, who see their panic and run with them. Andrew runs directly into Vince, who is confused as fuck about what he's doing. Andrew tries to warn Vince and sees the demon right behind him, so he busts out that firearm and fires at it. But it does nada, so he rushes inside with the others. Andrew's little pot shot infuriates Vince, so he comes pounding on that door as they barricade it.
Oh, you're inside.
Yeah, no shit, Vince, you literally just saw them run in there. While Andrew and John were distracted at the door, Daniel was witnessing his twin being accused of devilry. They follow the mysterious little girl up the stairs, and once they hit the bell tower, Daniel and Andrew are sent back to watch David's execution. This fucking guy is clearly just finding ways to murder people in different ways, because who plans to push someone out of a window to be impaled on a fence post? This shit is crazy. Watching himself die in such a brutal way is a gut punch to Daniel, and John thinks the pattern here is clear. If you see your devil's death, then you're at risk. Right on cue, one of the demons says, "What up?" and another tries to stick him from outside. They make a run for it, but when Daniel sees the stabby one going for John, he decides to attack it with his own stabby thing. He loses the upper hand quickly, but John returns the favor to save his life. Right after we join Taylor and Andrew, who keep pumping their feet, but the fog gets soupy and splits the two of them up, forcing Taylor into going left or right. I do what I usually do at forks in the road, and choose left, right into the path of the hanged demon. It reaches out and grabs hold of Taylor, who is most definitely not into this kind of shit, and asks Andrew to take the shot, but he he's not confident in his ability and is too afraid to hit her, which dooms her to strangulation. This is the first time Taylor can be killed in the game, but there's 3 other chances afterwards for the demon to claim her life, whether she was hanged or burned in the prologue. John and Daniel eventually catch up, and Andrew drops the news that Taylor is super dead.
Fat fuck!
Excuse me? The trio reiterate their mission to stop Mara from getting anyone else killed, and on that note, I'm judged by the curator for not saving lives where I can. Andrew attempts to get 1,000 hugs from these 10,000 lightning bugs, but instead meets his own doppelganger Abraham, who is talking to Joseph in the dead of night. Mara has been relocated to Abraham's abode, and he admits she seems as if she has genuine remorse for the people she's gotten killed. Joseph reminds Aham to watch his words in her presence, lest he be accused of devilry too. He turns to Andrew, thinking maybe it's too late for that since he sees his double, and it's here they need to take the opportunity to stop all the killing. He warns Abraham to look out for Reverend Carver, who is behind everything, and Daniel gets pissed at Andrew for the sudden curveball. They keep going, getting grabbed here and there for more visions of the past. Abraham is about to testify in front of the town's judge, and we watch as Carver desperately tries telling him that Aham can't be trusted. Once he gets the chance, Abraham informs the judge that Mary is a victim of Carver's, but the judge does not believe him and orders her care to be transferred to the Reverend. Once back in the present, Daniel and Andrew push a large box to clear a path and instead open a path to the basement so Daniel can go toe-to-toe with his demon. He fails to fight it off, however, and becomes the 3rd victim of the night as his eye gets shish kebabbed. This is the 3rd instance where Daniel can get killed. The first time occurs earlier, where I chose to fight the demon and save John, but if he runs away and fails some QTEs, his life ends there. He can die a total of 4 times, with all occurring to the same demon. John and Andrew leave right away as yet another demon follows. They see the girl in the fog again and continue after her, eventually getting sent back in time to watch as Joseph is executed as well, this time by slowly crushing him with some huge rocks. How has no one questioned why this supposed man of God is torturing people in various ways? Soon after coming back to the present, they're attacked by another demon. This one in particular looks very much like an enemy type in Silent Hill, known as the Lying Figure. Little Hope clearly takes a lot of inspiration from that series, from the town's sign at the beginning, to the dense fog throughout the abandoned town, to the plot twist at the end. Reason for that is likely because Supermassive actually pitched a series of short stories set in Silent Hill to Konami, but ultimately went forward with a Dark Pictures idea instead. Andrew helps John get inside and away from the creepy demon, and once it goes away, they look around the burnt structure, where we quickly realize it's the home that burnt down in the prologue. Andrew is sent back to watch as Carver is attempting to get Mara executed after he discovered her plan to confess the secret he beholden her to. Abraham steps in and implores the judge to take a glance at Carver's Bible, which contains occult symbols. This turns the town on the Reverend, who is taken away before Mara can be wrongly executed.
Satan's all!
Whoa, simmer down, buddy, she's just a child. Mary can actually die here, though. If we don't convince Abraham to defend her, then she'll be burnt at the stake. Instead, John tells Andrew he's impressed at his decision-making skills and heads towards the door, but as soon as Andrew is outside, the door slams behind him. John is left alone inside as the Lying Figure attacks and crushes his throat for another kill, leaving Andrew with that all-too-familiar feeling of being alone. Morning comes with Vince angrily telling Andrew he should have stayed away from Little Hope, and that he can't be forgiven for what he did. He claims he never killed anyone, but the police place him in the back of their cruiser regardless, where we confirm Andrew is actually Anthony from the prologue this entire time. It shows a montage of Anthony throughout the story as he hallucinates his deceased family, which means that we need to remove Angela, Taylor, Daniel, and John from the count since they were never real to begin with. However, the witch trial stuff is real. Anthony just imagined his own family members in the place of the actual people that were executed. Anthony can actually die right at the end if he has the gun, but a couple parameters have to be met to get that ending. Vince watches as the police take him away for the fire that killed Tanya and the rest of his family. But his biggest crime was not subbing to this channel and smashing that like button. You never know what will happen if you don't. And that's where Little Hope ends. For the most part, it's a fine game, but the ending is a huge letdown, especially since Man of Medan did something similar with the hallucinations caused by the toxic chemicals aboard the ship. The biggest difference is the characters in Medan were actually in danger, whereas the ones in Little Hope weren't, so I played in a way to ensure most of the characters would die, since it doesn't actually mean much in the end. I had a total of 9 kills, and with it taking me 4 hours and 9 minutes to finish the game, that gives us a kill on average every 27.67 minutes. The kill count doesn't vary much, since Anthony's family will always die, and most of the witch trial stuff is unavoidable. 9 is the fewest kills you can get, and 11 is the most if both Mara and Anthony are killed. I'll continue the Dark Pictures anthology next time with House of Ashes, which is thankfully much better than the first 2 entries. Thanks as always for watching. I'm King Deschain, signing off for now.